Luckily for us, it's pretty unusual for a person to disappear into thin air, so to speak, and to have three of those in a relatively rural area is scary. I think it makes sense for this to start to become a kind of folklore.
When the Bennington Five disappeared in Southwest Vermont between 1945 and 1950, the local refrain became, "Don't go into the woods of the surrounding mountains while wearing the color red, or you may never come back out." For part one of this series, we learned about the case of Bennington College student Paula Weldon, the most famous of those who had vanished from what became known as the Bennington Triangle. For part two, Sarah Marshall of You're Wrong About joins me again as I explain the circumstances of the other four disappearances, as well as the different paranormal explanations that have been floated over the years: UFOs, forest monsters, bizarre structures hidden in the mountains. And as always, I go back through old newspapers to try to find more evidence of any strange happenings around the town of Bennington, stretching all the way back to the 1800s, and then try to explain how the legend of the Bennington Triangle actually formed over the last 70 years. So now, lace up your hiking boots and head back with us into the dark forested mountains of the Bennington Triangle to see what we can uncover together. But whatever you do, make sure that you are not wearing red. I'm your host, Chelsey Weber-Smith, and this is American Hysteria. And we are back together again to get into some of the more mysterious paranormal aspects of this thing we're talking about called the Bennington Triangle. And with me again, of course, is Bennington correspondent Sarah Marshall. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. Isn't it amazing that we're not talking about polyamory today?
Can you believe it?
Barely.
So, as just a little recap, we talked about the first of 5 disappearances that happened in the 1940s, the disappearance of Paula Weldon, who was a college student at Bennington. And we just kind of went through beat by beat, following kind of the newspaper's direction of how the case went. So after that, we get this kind of snowball effect as these other people start disappearing from the area. And from there, this legend over the decades kind of grows larger and larger. So shall we get into some of the other disappearances that make up this tale?
Let's do it. I'm ready.
So on November 12th, 1945, this is a little over a year before Paula went missing. But of course, it didn't seem significant, right, until there was more of these disappearances. It just seemed like a one-off.
Mm-hmm.
So this was the disappearance of someone with the really adorable name of Mitty Rivers. So he was 74 years old. He was a hunter, and he disappeared in a pretty similar area to where it is assumed that Paula went missing, because, of course, we don't exactly know except by piecing together these handful of eyewitness reports. But he did go missing in this area nearby called Hell Hollow, which is pretty wild.
Alternatively, hello.
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 It's so wild when people decide to name something in such a manner. You know, like when it's like the Devil's Gulch or like Hell Hollow. It's like, it's pretty badass. I like it. I stan it. Kind of in a similar way, but probably to a greater degree than Paula. Mitty was a skilled outdoorsman. He was a mountain guide. He knew the area along the Long Trail, which again is the trail that Paula was heading toward. He knew it really, really well. And so it didn't really make sense that he would vanish without a trace in the area.
Mm-hmm.
So he'd been out with his son-in-law and like a group of other hunters, and just simply told them he was going to go like a short distance away to do some, I guess, hunting of his own, and that he would be back for lunch. And as you might guess, he did not come back for hours. And, you know, his little sandwich was sitting there.
That is a little sandwich.
Cold. I know. The real victim of this story. So they went looking for him, yelling his name. They were shooting their guns into the air, trying to get him to find them in case he was lost. Because as we mentioned, Sarah, and as you know from living there, this area of Vermont, you know, it's dense. It is easy to get lost.
Yeah, it's in the Green Mountains, and they're called that because there's so many trees on them.
Exactly. That's science.
It is science, yeah. Chlorophyll.
Chlorophyll. I remember learning about that. I just loved learning about that for some reason.
It was very fun and cool because the thing is like that, you know, when people make ignorance a way of life or act like that's required by religion, it's like, you know, the way the world works is so fascinating and neat. And obviously not all of science is like delightful. There are aspects of it that make you go, I don't like that. That creeps me out. But it's, you know, it's knowledge is so much more fun than choosing to not know, especially where chlorophyll is concerned.
Yeah, I agree. And you know what? Reading the entire Bible front to back, as I'm doing right now, is better than not reading the Bible front to back, as I'm doing right now.
Yeah. How's the Bible going?
Oh, God. I am almost 50% done. That's impressive. I am deep in Psalms. So, yep. Thank you for asking.
Wow. Do you like the Psalms?
You know, I thought they would be less violent. As I've thought about every aspect of the Bible. But no, it's just, you know, there are lovely moments. Absolutely. And then there are a lot of moments that are like, God, strike down my enemies and pick their eyes out and throw them in a lake. Yeah.
Right. In great detail. And then people are like, why do the kids like slashers? It's like, well, exactly. It's kind of continuous with our whole tradition.
Yep.
What's your favorite book so far? What book do you find to be underrated now that you've read it?
I am Job pilled. Let's just say it.
Yeah. You love yourself some Job.
Oh my God. Book of Job was just so fascinating. It was very poetic. It was like reading like a Greek symposium kind of. And it was just, I had like read it before, I think, but it really is a lot of like, it's kind of a depression ode in a lot of ways. Like it's really cool. I think you'd really like it. I'm not saying the message is great.
Like Great Depression or depression, like
depression,
yeah,
like the depression of being abandoned by God for seemingly no reason.
Oh my Lord. Yeah. I was thinking also you meant Great Depression because I could also imagine Job as like a Dust Bowl kind of a guy, maybe.
Well, it's not, I mean, he kind of went through a personal Great Depression after everything was taken from him because the devil was like, hey, God, do you think he really loves you or did you just give him a lot of shit? And God's like, well, I'll ruin everything for him to prove to you, Satan.
Are there locusts in the book of Job?
I don't think there's locusts. There are locusts about. You know, there might have been. A lot happens.
Locusts are a character in the Bible, naturally. Yeah.
Yeah. Sound off in the comments if there's locusts in Job.
Well, there's a plague of locusts in Egypt, I guess. Yeah. Those are like the big locusts I'm probably thinking of.
Yes. And there are, you know, God gets mad a lot. So.
Yeah, evidently. And we can, I'm reading a book about the blizzard of 1888, which apparently we know to have been extremely severe, partly because it caused Norwegians to get emotional, which they're not known for.
Sarah, I thought you said the lizard. Not the blizzard. I was like, who's he? I want to know him.
Tell me about this lizard. Honey,
who's he?
Honey, he is the Lizard King. He can do anything.
Well, I do love him.
Yeah, I love the Lizard of 1888 too.
That's cool. You're reading that book, though. I don't think I know about it. Was that an American blizzard? Where'd that happen? Yeah,
well, in like Minnesota and the Dakotas, I think. Mainly.
Okay.
And it happened as kids were coming home from school and after kind of an unseasonably warm day. And so it was, you know, just especially killed a lot of kids. And I don't know, there's so many stories of the American frontier, because I guess read Prairie Fires about Laura Ingalls Wilder and Rose Wilder, and just like how that actually, I mean, as we established, I don't think that Job dealt with locusts himself, but there's like as many of us who remember the Little House books remember, and has really happened. Like, the Ingalls planted this like great crop of wheat and it was coming along amazing. And then the biggest swarm of locusts in recorded American history descended upon them and everyone else's wheat. And the history of America, the more I think about it, I guess like makes sense as a country where people read the Bible, because so much of the stuff in the Bible was like happening to Americans throughout time.
Yeah.
Including, like famine and drought and locusts occasionally.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, you bring up that the blizzard happened on like a warm day. It's like it wasn't expected. Yeah. And I think that is similar to what we talked about with, the snow coming kind of seemingly out of nowhere, because they didn't have the Google weather app that becomes less and less accurate the more funding that the weather loses.
Well, right. And also, the story of like predicting the weather, and also then kind of like we were talking about last time too, like how people relate to what information they have about how things are shaping up, and, ignoring things being about to get less hospitable out there.
Yeah.
But okay. So we have an old hunter who goes missing after splitting off from his group.
That's right. Classic
Scream rules violation.
Exactly. I'm glad you caught on to that.
Yeah. And his buddies are looking for him and shooting their guns in the air. So I hope that they accidentally got like a pheasant while they were doing that, at least.
No pheasants were harmed in the making of this search party. I mean, I have no idea. Maybe maybe there's a pheasant who's lost to history. That would be such a like Simpsons moment.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Okay. So the only piece of evidence that was ever found related to our friend Mitty was actually, again, if we'll remember this frickin' psychic from New York.
Oh my gosh.
It involved her. Okay.
Ooh.
So it's weird because, again, just a repeat for anyone who might have forgotten last week, the psychic had led Paula Weldon's dad to a spot where he found a red parka similar to the one that his daughter had been wearing, but it was made of a different fabric. But it was still like really fucking weird.
Yeah.
And so this time, and again, same psychic, this family had kind of used this psychic as well, hoping to figure out if there could be any evidence out there. And they kind of like tested the psychic because I don't think they fully bought into the whole thing.
Yeah, reasonable.
Yeah. And they had actually found this handkerchief that had some money inside of it. And so they were like, okay, this will be kind of a good opportunity for us to check if the psychic might be actually worth continuing to work with to find Mitty. And she did tell them that, yes, he left a handkerchief with some money inside. So they were kind of blown away, as I would have been.
Yeah.
And it does lead me to say, is this psychic planting this stuff?
Oh, I was going to say, is this the one police psychic who's the real deal? But yours is probably more reasonable. Do you like how I am technically a skeptic, but I also am not a great critical thinker and I get excited easily?
No, we have fun,
I think that's charming of me. Yeah.
It is charming of you. No, we have fun.
Old Mulder and Scully over here.
No, I like to be swept away.
Don't you love it how every time Mulder is like, Scully, you're such a big idiot for thinking that Nessie isn't living in this lake in Minnesota.
Yes. Yes, I do.
How could you possibly discount the accounts of 3 teenagers?
I know. And you just can't discount the sexual tension between one who wants to believe and one who will not.
No, you can't.
Because they're trying to get to some beautiful middle ground together.
Yeah.
You can only do it
I just love how he's just like mumbles condescendingly at her. He's like, Scully, how could you possibly doubt this stupid thing I'm saying and that it's going to turn out to probably not be true?
And then she's very much like, Mulder, what are you talking about? Just a little more direct. God, I love him. Okay. So the psychic told the family that Mitty's body would be found near a wood shanty under a large tree. This location was never discovered. He was never found. Wow. It's really the end of the story.
Yeah.
But I will ask you this, Sarah.
Yes.
What do you think was the last thing he was seen wearing?
Oh, not a red parka.
Close.
Red hat.
A red and black plaid coat.
Oh.
So I think I think we can generously put this into the red family.
Totally. I will say also, like, that is like a smart thing to be wearing at that time of year and in that place, because you do want to be visible, especially if you're hunting or if you're, taking a hike during hunting season for that matter. But it's, look, I'll take it. We need a third one for it to be a trend. Like with geese.
And we'll see, won't we?
I guess we will.
But yeah, just for anyone who might have forgotten, part of the Bennington Triangle legend is not to go up into the mountains while wearing red or you will disappear. So now we have Paula wearing red and we have Mitty wearing red.
Do you know the thing, I think it's like a general or Southern Appalachia thing that you're not supposed to whistle in the dark?
Yeah, I have heard that. I don't know. I feel like at one point, maybe you told me about this. I don't know. I remember this vaguely, but I don't remember the lore that accompanies it.
Well, I feel like I've seen someone theorize that it's because of big cats, maybe.
I buy that.
But I don't know.
Yeah.
I find that very interesting. And it also makes sense to me as a general superstition.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's good advice just because you don't want to know who's going to whistle back, probably.
Oh, my mom has this story of like when she lived in England as a kid, she would take this shortcut through the woods and it was getting dark one day, or maybe it was dark, and she just heard someone, I think it was coming toward her or right behind her, and they were whistling. I can't remember what it is. Just some very eerie tune, and she just ran as fast as she could home. And I like that little picture of my mom.
I like that story too.
Who also loved to climb down the chimney of this ancient abandoned church in her town. Just like me. Like mother, like son.
You need more ancient abandoned churches to be shinnying around now that I think about it.
I sure do. God, just like what an embarrassment of riches to live in Europe as an herb X person who likes to explore abandoned places.
There's so much old herb to X.
There is. It's unending, really.
Yeah, including that Roman herb stuff.
And you saying that about the red jacket did make me wonder, like, was that, I didn't look this up, but like, was that the common color that you wore before we had like did we have friggin' fluorescent orange as a color for clothing back then? I have no idea.
I assume not. I mean,
I would think not.
Okay, let's both guess. Let's do a Price is Right.
Okay.
On when blaze orange became like kind of the law of the land for American hunters.
Okay.
1968.
Okay, good guess. I'm going to be a huge asshole and do 69.
No, that's strategy. Okay.
That's the way it works, baby.
Okay, tell me about the orange.
Okay, so what I found was that the fluorescence, specifically blaze orange, appeared in the early 1960s. So both of us went over and go bust.
Oh, well, we tried.
But prior, red or red and black plaid was considered the right color to wear. So
interesting. I wonder why red and black plaid specifically.
I think it was just considered to be like highly visible, but it turned out that it wasn't as good of a choice as they had hoped.
Not visible enough. Yeah.
Yeah. So it would make sense that perhaps that was also considered the right color to wear when you were hiking.
Yeah.
I think we could maybe make that assumption.
I think so. Well, yeah, and especially during hunting season.
Right.
Or just, if you, I don't know, for general safety. Also, I know that at least in Wisconsin and probably other states, you can wear blaze pink to go hunting as well, which I think is very nice and inclusive.
Yeah, I like that. Okay. You ready for our next mysterious vanishing?
Yes.
Okay. So in October of 1950, so we're jumping ahead a little bit. I'm not doing these in chronological order, but in October of 1950, this was 4 years after Paula's disappearance and 5 years after Mitty's. So it's still within that 5-year time span that makes up the Bennington Triangle legend. An 8-year-old boy named Paul Jepson vanished when his mom was feeding the family's pigs that they kept at the Bennington dump, which the family managed. Because at first I read it and I was like, why are they feeding the pigs at the dump?
Right. Surely at the dump, the pigs have more than enough to eat. But yeah, that makes more sense.
Yeah, they are garbage monsters, our dear pigs. So it was about 3:30, which of course is the time that Paula went missing around too, that people point to as like a wild coincidence, which I don't find to be quite as wild. So Paul's mom had left him in the car unattended to go and do this chore. And she came back 30 minutes later and Paul was gone. So the police and search parties found absolutely nothing as they searched around the dump and around in the forest that surrounded it and surrounded the road. They brought in a bloodhound. Her name was Little Queenie, which I love.
Yeah.
They brought Little Queenie in to track down Paul's scent and followed it down a nearby road until they reached an intersection. And that's when the trail just went cold. So Paul's father thought that meant that somebody had either abducted the child or it had maybe been a hit and run. But they,
I mean, that is my first thought.
Abduction or hit and run?
Abduction, yeah. Or that, he got into a car for some reason.
Right. Yeah. And that could definitely be it. The other thought was that it was a hit and run and that the driver took Paul with him in order to hide this evidence. But there wasn't necessarily any evidence to go one way or the other. But it was true also that a heavy rain had started to fall, so it could have easily washed away what remained of the trail that the bloodhound was following. So it could have been as simple as that. And actually, the trail did continue, but it was just no longer something that the bloodhound could trace. Articles were coming out about this. It was another big kind of manhunt. His parents were investigated because there were rumors going around, of course, that they had killed him and fed him to their pigs, because what else would the newspapers write about if not that?
Well, you got to investigate the parents.
I guess you do. Absolutely.
The pig rumor is a bit much.
It was a little sensationalized there.
Yeah, I guess a tiny bit. Yeah.
Old newspapers also referenced the fact that he was found near an abandoned mine, which, as you know, I am obsessed with abandoned mines.
You've got caves and mines in this story, you little devil.
There's caves, there's mines. I know.
Could there be a crevasse or a sinkhole, perhaps?
Well, there was the pit of misery, we'll remember as well.
Oh, yes, of course.
But I don't enter abandoned mines now because I learned that there can be pockets of dangerous natural gases trapped down there.
I learned that in Little House on the Prairie.
Yeah, they can just go right on ahead and kill you. So
yeah, that almost happened to Pa.
Yeah. So now I have to find some professionals to see if they'll take a little scamp along with them.
Oh, they love scamps.
They
Those
like
mine
scamps.
professionals. Yeah.
I hope so. I know. I think people that are really serious want to have a clown around. Yeah.
Someone's sitting there right now like, I wish I had a scamp.
Yeah, I think that professionals like to have a little clown around sometimes.
Yeah.
More after this. And now back to the show. So our dear Paul, he was known to wander off. That was something that had happened in the year kind of leading up to his disappearance.
30 minutes is a long time to leave a kid in the car, to sort of...
I agree.
Not get distracted by something.
And I didn't mention this yet, but Paul did have developmental disabilities. I don't know specifically what. So it is also even more of a risk, I think, to leave a child for 30 minutes. But, it was the 1940s in a farming area. So we all have different ways of doing things.
Right. Like all these people are dead by now. It's whatever. But
yeah, we're not. But a lot can happen in 30 minutes for sure.
Exactly. As you're trying to sort of like put together what could have happened, it is easy for me to imagine him, wanting to investigate something or other. Dumps are very interesting places, I would imagine, especially if you're an 8-year-old boy.
Oh, I love the dump. I just went to the dump
the
other day with Miranda, and we had a great time. So he, as you kind of just mentioned, had talked lately about going up to the mountains. His dad said that he had spoken of the lure of the mountains. I'm doubting that those were his words, but he was allured.
Generally speaking, yeah.
Yes. And that prior to his disappearance, he had, quote, talked of nothing else for days. So I think it, again, the most likely situation, Occam's razor would be that he saw his chance. Maybe no one would take him out into the mountains, and he saw his chance and just tried to get out there on his own in a similar way to Paula, who just obviously really had a strong desire to head into the woods like that. And I mean, you could say there's a supernatural force at play, I guess, if you wanted to, like this kind of Pied Piper of a mountain that's luring people out there.
Well, the woods are natural and they are super. So
that's true. They are super. I do love the woods. But again, we have no idea what happened to Paul. But Sarah, can you just guess what Paul might have been wearing?
Perhaps a little red plaid something or other.
Very close. A red sweater under blue overalls. The most cliche outfit that a child could wear.
Yes, that I frequently wear myself.
You do wear that. So we have Paula now, we have Mitty, and we have Paul. All three of them were wearing red when they disappeared.
Yeah. So now we officially have a trend.
Yep, we do.
Yeah. And also it's, I feel like Law and Order kind of gives a lot of us, certainly me, the sense that there are missing persons cases just continually in America. But I think luckily for us, pretty unusual for a person to disappear into thin air, so to speak, and to have three of those in a relatively rural area.
Yeah.
Is scary. It's also, you have kind of nature as its own potential culprit. But even so, I mean, it makes sense for this to start to become a kind of folklore.
Definitely. I totally agree.
Yeah.
So 2 weeks after Paul goes missing, this is October 28th, 1950, a 53-year-old woman named Frida Langer vanishes again completely while hiking near the remote town of Somerset, which is within the triangle, right? The radius of the triangle, near the Glastonbury ghost town, kind of where the whole area got its start as like a logging town that by that time was totally abandoned. So this was just over the mountain from where Paula was last seen. So around 1:00 p.m., Frida, also an experienced hiker like Mitty and Paula, slipped and tumbled into a stream while trekking around with her cousin, which of course left her soaking wet. Super fucking annoying thing to happen while you're hiking. And she told him she was just going to take a shortcut back because they had a family cabin that they were staying at. So she was just taking a shortcut back to change clothes. She'd catch up with him later. But of course, she never showed up.
I'll be right back. Yeah.
Yeah, very much. So really quickly, a search party of about 300 people was assembled. They had planes, they had aircrafts. They were a lot more prepared than they had been prior to when Paula disappeared. I didn't mention this, but one of the big, long-lasting legacies of the Paula Weldon case was that it was the singular, kickoff to Vermont actually getting a state police department. So by this time, we're moving in that direction, at least. I'm not quite sure if it had happened by now, but they're at least a lot more prepared because of what had happened to Paula.
Yeah.
So they found nothing. Immediately, her husband comes out and says, hey, Frida really struggled with this seizure disorder, and she, had likely become disoriented. That was what he thought had happened because cold was one of the things that set off seizures for her. And that could explain why she had become lost in an area that she was just very, very, very familiar with, because she had literally, her family cabin had been there for probably her whole life. So this was she knew this place like the back of her hand.
I will say, though, I mean, there probably isn't a place, there definitely isn't a place that I know that well. But I think that even in a place that is extremely familiar to you, I think, the woods are just very, very disorienting. And I think that we probably all underestimate how easy it is. I think a lot of us and I'm speaking for myself here, I love the woods. I love the forest bathing. It feels so good to be in the forest. But when you're actually in the forest, like not on a trail in the forest, but in the forest, at least if you're me, you're like, oh, fuck.
Yeah.
Fucking fuck. Right? Because where I really want to be is like on next to the forest, but like on the perimeter where I can ideally, see a street.
Right. Now, that's real. Yeah. And I've really taken to my solo camping life. And it is, I'm always with my car. I'm not actually a backpacker. So I feel like I'm still like I have just a toe in civilization. But, you won't see people for an entire day and you're sleeping out there. And it's like if you don't completely suspend the disbelief kind of what you're really doing. Yeah. Like if you don't suspend the fact that you are in danger in a way that is pretty profound, then that horror can descend really quick. Or like I had a bad dream, like a really bad dream when I was solo camping and I was sleeping in my car, luckily, so I could just like roll up the windows all the way and just like crack the sunroof just a little bit to get the air. But I like was terrified because my bubble had been shattered. And I think that could probably happen when you're hiking and you could really panic.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you remember there was a woman who was missing for like months because she had like stepped off the Appalachian Trail in Maine to go to the bathroom or something like that. And then just like got disoriented and ended up like living in the forest, like very close to the trail, it turned out, for a really long time. And ultimately, like survived a very long time, but was not found while she was still alive. And like in the last few years, and that just being a case of somebody just like stepping very briefly off of an established trail. And so, so when I say like, oh, I love the forest, I love the woods, I'm like, do I mainly love trails?
This is important. These are important distinctions.
It's a big distinction. Yeah. And like, I love it. I love a day hike, but like, I know what species I am, I like to know that my own legs can carry me to a vehicle that will bring me to a cheeseburger within the next couple hours at any given time. That's what I like.
It's the most patriotic thing I've ever heard you say.
Don't you feel that like when you're like in any kind of hiking or camping situation, food just becomes like even more like 200% more appealing,
Oh yeah, of course.
Yeah. That's absolutely one of the best things about it. Yeah.
Absolutely.
And then like, getting back and going to Jack in the Box or whatever happens to be there.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I like to camp like in a national park close enough that I can drive like an hour or two and spend the day in a town and then drive back out. Because I like both, I don't want to just be in the woods. It gets boring. Unless I'm like going to like a ghost town I'm hiking to or something, then that's a different story. But I need some human ephemera. I need a little of it.
Yeah.
I just need a little. Yeah.
You need some souvenirs.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay. So back to Frida real quick.
Yeah. So we have a manhunt. The police are ready.
She's disappeared. Nobody can find her. But is she a true Bennington Triangle disappearance?
No.
It seemed that way for 7 months until her body was discovered by a fisherman about 3.5 miles from where she was last seen. No cause of death was really determined. Weirdly, she was found in a field of tall grass, but it was a field of tall grass that had been searched like several times.
Wow.
So that was strange and kind of made people feel that there was something mysterious or supernatural going on. But authorities kind of think that she probably fell while hiking and her body washed into the river nearby. And then as the river started to flood with the spring rains, she was, her like kind of deposited in that field.
Yeah.
But of course, we don't know. It's just another one of those things that is another piece.
Or was it a giant eagle? Yeah. That got bored eventually.
Yes. That's probably more likely, Sarah.
Was it hedgehogs walking in circles?
It was hedgehogs.
Hundreds of hedgehogs. Yeah.
Hundreds of hedgehogs would be a good name for something. I don't know what.
Anything.
So Paula was last seen wearing Sarah,
Mm-hmm.
a red shirt under a brown jacket.
Mm-hmm.
So we got 4, even though she didn't disappear. I think that a strange death still counts, right? It's still within this realm.
Yeah. Well, look, people who have disappeared, we can assume that that's what happened and we just didn't know about it, unless people are coming up with picnic at Hanging Rock type theories that, there has been some kind of hole cut in space time or whatever. But I guess we'll get to that.
There will be theories.
Okay.
There will be theories. So the last one I'm not going to get into in a lot of detail, but this one happened in 1949, exactly to the day, 3 years after Paula Weldon disappeared.
Okay.
And this man's name was James Tedford. He was a 68-year-old World War I vet, and he disappeared after going to a bus station traveling back into Bennington. So it's nobody really knows where he was when he disappeared, but they've kind of just put it into the category of the Bennington Triangle because he might have gotten back to Bennington or close to Bennington. So he was seen kind of on the bus route where he would have been changing buses in Burlington, acting queerly, quote unquote, which obviously does not mean what we think it means now in these days, but he was acting strangely. It does seem that he had been really depressed.
In a D.B. Cooper kind of a way, perhaps.
Yeah. And in a way, I mean, not completely dissimilar to how Paula had been acting strangely prior to her disappearance. But a lot of people kind of argue that maybe this actually isn't a very good disappearance to add to the Bennington Triangle because there's no real evidence that he actually was in the area.
Yeah, it seems like they're trying to bulk up their numbers.
It does. And he was not said to have been wearing red. So it's a big outlier in a lot of ways. But those are the 5.
Those are okay. And is it 5 in total?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
In this 5-year span. There were other things here and there, but this is the core that makes up the legend. So now I want to move on into how the idea that there was something paranormal going on, how that got going, that idea, right?
Yeah, tell me about that.
So by 1950, as these are happening, people are noticing, it's strange. And in November of 1950, the very first article comes out that hints, and I think it's a little tongue in cheek. It hints at this idea that there could be a potential lost horizon, which is referencing the novel from 1933 and the movie that had come out in 1937, Lost Horizon, that maybe there was a Shangri-La somewhere that all of these people were going to, right?
Yeah. Classic case.
And that's not, it's not very paranormal. That was just the first thing I could really find that hinted at any other explanation that wasn't a pretty typical one.
Yeah.
Of course, people were worried about serial killers, but even that angle didn't really take off in a way that you would expect for 1950.
Well, we didn't really talk about serial killers back then, I don't think. Not certainly like the way we do now.
More of a sexual psychopath is what they were kind of into, I think, which is different. But that never came up.
Fergus is a different, I don't know, framing the problem differently, I guess. Yeah.
And maybe if they had all been women, that might have, but it's we've just, every victim is extremely different from the one that came before. So, But then we get to the 1970s. So I think that some of the new age kind of paranormal vibes started to leak into this story, which was still, it was still a great mystery. It was still talked about.
And we keep having students showing up at the college who get to, hear the lore and add their own touches, I imagine. Yeah.
Yes, definitely. Would you mind reading just this short excerpt from an article that I found?
Not at all. As more time passed and no trace of the missing 5 was ever found, legends began, weird legends like the one that had Paula living alone with the deer and bear on Glastonbury Mountain, somehow evading the November hunters and summer hikers and enduring long, cold winters in the uninhabited wilderness. Perhaps the most macabre legend was that Paula had met up with Mitty Rivers and the 2 later adopted Paul Jepson, continuing to eke out an existence in the uncivilized woodlands.
Yeah, it's a weird one.
Gullible Yorkers were said to favor the story about a certain rock in the White Rock section of the Glastonbury Range that, if you step on it just so, opens up and swallows you forever. Sounds like fairy circles to me.
It does. It does.
And when UFO sightings were popular, it was suggested in several books that Glastonbury was a popular landing spot for visitors from outer space, who had probably snatched up Mitty Rivers and Paula Weldon, if not the other three, and transported them to another galaxy.
So a really different tone is coming in the 1950s. And they reference something in here that like books had suggested that UFOs might have had something to do with it. I couldn't find that. Certainly doesn't mean that they're not out there, because I'm sure that they've probably all just like kind of disappeared into time if they did exist. More after this. And now back to the show. So from there, it's kind of quiet for a while until the later 1980s when a man starts to write about what he will eventually dub the Bennington Triangle.
Oh boy. Okay. Is it Art Bell or Lauren Coleman?
It is not. I wish it was. No, because Lauren Coleman would be debunking, I feel.
Okay, nice.
If it was our Lauren. I love Lauren. But it was a man named Joseph Citro. So he was like an amateur folklorist and...
just like us.
Yeah, yeah. He wrote a lot of books about Vermont folklore and paranormal stuff. And a little bit less of a skeptic than us, as you might imagine. But he really is the one that we can credit for making this legend as popular as it was. And it started with this book that he wrote in 1987, where he refers to something that he calls the Devil's Triangle. So this is before he came up with the name that would stick. And he wrote about it in a novel, actually, that was called Shadow Child. And he used pseudonyms like Paula Wellman.
Very subtle.
For Paula Weldon.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Paul Jemison for Paul Jepson.
Oh, that's very different.
It is. And it's not like the novel's about many things. It's not, you know, about this per se, but this is an aspect of the story. And I would love to show you the cover if you wouldn't mind taking a peek.
Yep.
Telling me what it might remind you of.
Wow. Yeah. It looks, I mean, it looks like a combination of Pennywise and the Terminator.
It does. I didn't get the Terminator reference, but you're right.
Right? Because we've got a clown, but on his left side, his skin has been removed. Oh, no.
That's a great cover.
I guess he's like a Harvey Dent Pennywise.
Yes.
Harvey Pennywise.
Now, interestingly, this book has no clown character.
What?
Whatsoever.
My gosh. It was all a cynical marketing ploy. I never.
That was my guess, because the year before Joseph Citro's book came out, Stephen King's It came out, was a smash success. And I now am wondering if it was a combination marketing ploy with It and with The Terminator, which had come out in 1984.
Yeah,
so maybe they were like,
so.
Let's mash these two properties together and make this like really great cover, even though it has nothing to do with what the book's about.
I mean, this is the golden age of the mass market paperback cover, arguably.
It is.
Yeah. So,
yeah. And
you can't let having nothing to do with what's in the book get in your way if you have a vision like this.
You're so right. You're so right. So fast forward to 1994, when Joseph Citro is starting to kind of write his nonfiction, quote unquote, nonfiction books about folklore of the area. And this is when he comes up with the Bennington Triangle in his book, Green Mountain Ghost Schools and Unsolved Mysteries. He writes, could the Bennington monster have carried them off into the caves and swamps of Glastonbury Mountain? Could they have slipped through some vile vortex, some interdimensional trap door like the one referred to as the Bermuda Triangle, famous for gobbling up planes and ships that are never seen again? Or maybe they encountered an enchanted stone in the White Rock section of the Glastonbury Range, a stone known to Indians as one that yawns and swallows anyone who steps on it. So there's like no evidence I can find anywhere that any indigenous tribes had a story of rocks swallowing people.
Like, we can't let that get in our way.
No, we can't. But apparently, I mean, I thought for a while Joe made it up, but then I did find reference to it in that 1970s article, which was, more than 2 decades before he wrote this down. So it was something that was going around. Whether this was actual folklore of any indigenous tribe of the area remains to be seen.
Right.
If reach out, because I'd love to actually find out the truth on that. But yeah, I could not find any reference to it, and I looked really hard. But that doesn't mean that it would be around somewhere that I could find.
I mean, the thing is, if it's like a fairy circles, standing stones kind of a thing, that it could just be like, the actual existing folklore of British people. And
absolutely,
be, getting projected onto indigenous people in the area to give it
that extra little something.
Which is interesting, is that we never want to believe indigenous folklore unless we're trying to find evidence of a monster, in which we're like, hey, you got to pay attention to what people have to say if they're maybe corroborating your monster idea, not if they're asking for civil rights. That's silly.
You're absolutely right. That's just common sense, Sarah. So with each new book that Joseph Citro wrote, the Bennington Triangle, if it was included, kind of became more and more sensationalized, as we might expect.
Yeah, it's got to earn its keep.
It does. And I found this interview through the Vermont Public Radio show Brave Little State, and it was an interview with Joe Citro, and he said, quote, "I added some fanciful speculation that I didn't believe, and I didn't think the reader would, like, little aliens came down and scooped people up, or The Rock. I may have made that up. I may have found that. I just don't know. And that's the thing about folklore and fact. There's an alchemy that mixes them, and even the creators can't go back and separate them." I don't know if all folklorists would agree with that statement, but, I understand what he's saying.
I think generally we know that saying something off the wall and assuming that no one is silly enough to believe it has never worked, because you cannot underestimate the silliness of the American people.
Well, and that's like Fox News' defense when they get taken to court, is they're like, how could anyone believe this? This is entertainment. Are you stupid?
It's like people clearly, it's because you're shouting at them and telling them that they have to, I think.
Yeah, exactly. Or they'll go to hell. So, I think we can credit old Joe here with really almost creating this legend from thin air, unvanishing it, perhaps. But, there were lots of, threads that existed that he was pulling on. And one of those was the Bennington Monster, or Mr. Bigfoot, which is a joke I'm going to use forever for you. It's all for you. Okay, so this is a big fat allegedly coming up because I could not find much reference to it. It does seem like perhaps Joe Citro was the one that put this story forth. I cannot find it in any newspaper archives.
I mean, that does seem possible based on the thing that you just read him saying.
But again, I don't know. It could have been a story that was already out there.
Right.
I don't think it happened. It might have been local lore.
We would never slander Joe Citro.
No, I'd never. So in the mid-1800s, this area on Glastonbury Mountain had, as I had mentioned, become this booming logging town. And rumors were going around then, allegedly, that there was a strange being that lived out in the woods.
Yeah. I mean, logging towns and monsters do go together, I think.
Yes.
Without logging towns, we would not have Bigfoot as we know him.
As we know, yeah. So the first of the sightings apparently occurred around this time in the mid-1800s when a stagecoach was traveling at the foot of the mountain and was forced to stop because the road was washed out. So they all disembarked the coach and saw these big fucking ass footprints and, were like all bending over to study them when they were attacked by a large creature that completely knocked the stagecoach over on its side, which is pretty cool. I imagine that would be hard to do. Things like a stagecoach would be pretty solid.
It's like the King Kong ride at Universal Studios.
I do love that ride. I don't like a lot of rides that involve 3D glasses, but that one's pretty good. I do enjoy that one. As long as I'm on the tram at Universal Studios, I'm happy.
Yeah. Right? They could take you through a history of finance and you would be happy on there.
I'd love that, actually.
Yeah,
I don't know the history
that'd be a good
of
way
finance.
to learn.
Yeah, just make sure you take me through the town from Jaws when you're telling me about it.
Yeah. Jaws is all about finance.
Of course. Well, it's at least about capitalism, that's for sure.
Mm-hmm.
So they claimed this beast was over 6 feet tall and covered in hair. So it's giving Bigfoot. I cannot find any source for this, as I mentioned.
Once again, as someone who is over 6 feet tall and who doesn't exactly like menace townspeople, I always find it funny when they're like, the monster was over 6 feet tall. And I'm like, yeah.
So
Okay.
are many people. many people. I guess you're not as covered in hair as you could be.
No, not as I could be. No, I could be hair maxing. Yeah.
Oh, well, maybe you should and start terrifying stagecoaches all over the land.
There aren't enough stagecoaches for it to be worth my while. I know that sounds like kind of a flimsy excuse, but...
Okay, but I will say, Sarah, that I did find a trace of a wild man who was terrorizing Bennington in the mid-1800s, but perhaps the paranormal was not to blame. Would you read this article for us?
Yes.
Female Fright at Bennington is the title.
Oh, boy. Female fright at Bennington. They have a wild man of the woods and a female fright at Bennington, which means it should be paid less, I guess. For some days, rumors have been rife of a wild man hereabouts who during the daytime remains concealed for the most part in his lair, but when the somber shades of eve steal over the land, sallies out to his work of rascality. Oh, Chelsey, rascality.
Really good.
Chasing lone women and the like. It is claimed, I like how this is presented as like comedy.
Yeah.
It is claimed the fellow is armed with 3 revolvers and carries a formidable looking dirk, which I think is like a dagger, right?
I don't know. I was going to ask you.
If my romance novel knowledge is serving me. I think it's like an old Scottish word for a dagger. I don't know why I think I know that, but that's my guess.
If anyone would.
Joined to which he has an ugly phiz, which that's a face. Phiz is short for physiognomy. All these reports may be exaggerated and doubtless are because of all the females. Sorry, that was my
rude.
I said that.
Yeah.
But still, there can be no doubt that there is a man around here who has a failing in the line of chasing females and peeking into windows at night. He may be a rascal intentionally, and he may be nothing more nor less than an escaped lunatic. But one thing is certain, a reign of terror is inaugurated among our female population, making them exceedingly scary after being out alone after nightfall. Our authorities should at once take measures to hunt out the fellow. Wow. Feels like this was written by James Thurber.
So obviously this is not referencing the same type of monster, but I was looking for anything that might have contributed to the idea that there is a monster in Bennington. So this is a stretch, and yet I just did want to bring it to you. So other articles said that this man was wearing a long coat that he would then open up to show his naked body, a trendsetter for flashers for centuries to come.
Hopefully not too many centuries.
So Sarah, there was one more mention I wanted to show you of the Bennington Wild Man. Would you read this for me? This comes about a week later after he's finally caught.
Oh boy. Could it possibly be a Dartmouth student?
Not that I know of, but there were also references of him living in the caves up in the mountains, which I thought was a fun kind of thread that tied back together our Everett cave.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Okay, so the paper says, the wild man of Bennington has been caught and sent out of town. He was tinged with a species of lunacy. Very helpful.
the only follow-up. I just thought that was poetic. Yeah.
I feel like we need some more closure on this guy. What the hell was happening?
I mean, I guess he was just a little monster terrorizing the women of Bennington. I guess it's just a tale as old as time. It could be anywhere.
I mean, look, there's a lot of little monsters terrorizing women of Bennington to this very day. They're called men at Bennington.
That's what I'm thinking. All right. I'm going to read you the only other reports I could find about something like the Bennington monster, okay?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, again, this is from 2003. Reports of Bigfoot sightings snowball. The report of a Sasquatch sighting last week has prompted others who also saw what they call, quote, a guy in a gorilla suit to come forward.
Scintillating.
After Ray Dufresne's, 45, of Winooski said on September 25th that he spotted a Bigfoot-type creature at the highest elevation on Route 7, 3 more individuals stepped forward to say they saw the same thing.
Oh, no, not Route 7.
I know. Another guy who was heading to Bennington to do a reading, he sees this same thing. So it says, as he approaches the stretch of road near the highest elevation, Dorst saw in the distance what he originally thought was a, quote, homeless dude with a war wound in a snowsuit, which is really weird.
What kind of war wound?
I
Yeah.
don't know. It was an initial judgment he made by the creature's appearance, size, and gait. So he said, as I got closer, it seemed like it was a big somebody.
Oh, and may I just point out that very writer is currently the director of the MFA program in creative writing at Texas State University in San Marcos. So,
okay, well, there we
fun.
go. That's not true, right?
No, that's true.
Doug Dorst.
Yes, Doug Dorst.
Doug
And
Dorst.
he was a 3-time Jeopardy winner. Yeah, what a life.
Holy shit.
Uh-huh. Doug Dorst gets around.
Wow. Incredible. Incredible. I never would have known that.
And he wrote a book with J.J. Abrams for some reason.
Oh, JJ.
All right, so Doug Dorst, thinking about all the great things he's going to do one day with his friend J.J. Abrams, sees the Bennington monster.
He sees the Bennington monster. He says that it was, can you guess how tall?
About 6'2".
Over 6 feet tall.
Oh, no, not over. Did it occur to anyone that this is just a female Bennington student?
Yeah. Maybe it was you. Were you there? No, you weren't there in 2003 yet.
No, but just shy by God, I went there 3 years after multiple monster sightings and no one fucking told me. Doesn't anyone care about my safety?
I don't think they do. I don't think they care.
God damn it.
Oh, they were too busy doing underwater basket weaving, as they say.
I guess. We've talked about underwater basket weaving, right?
I think so. No, I think you did on your show, didn't you? At some point?
Yeah. I think so.
What a great idea for a topic.
Underwater basket weaving is actually like, there are certain like fibers that you use to make baskets that you do need to like have underwater to make them pliant enough, or at least to like soak them for a period before you use them. So it sounds totally nonsensical, but it is actually very practical. And one day when everything collapses, people will feel real fucking bad that they were so mean to their kids who were studying basket weaving at Hampshire or wherever.
I kind of think it started as a way to make fun of Evergreen College in Olympia, but I really don't know if that's true.
I think that you told me about this on a previous episode, but that sounds about right.
Maybe.
Or at least that it was like,
I don't know,
a very useful way of making fun of Evergreen, you know, and I'm sure Bennington has also been accused of having its fair share of underwater basket weaving, to which I would say more underwater basket weaving, more.
Hey, I mean, it sounds like it's the way of the future.
More.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're going to need a lot of baskets, you know, in which to carry our precious few belongings as we search for water. Or no, you know what? I'm going to be more optimistic about the future. We're going to need baskets because they're cute and because it's getting increasingly hard to just buy something online without it turning out to be a weird drop shipping scam where you instead get sent, you know, someone else's Amazon return and it's full of spiders.
My nightmare.
Only a slight exaggeration of what shopping feels like now, but very slight. So in a shocking case of no one telling me about a monster in my midst, we have multiple Bennington monster sightings in 2003. I wasn't expecting it to be that recent.
I know. So several other people also saw whatever this was. And so...
Me, possibly, in a time skip.
Yeah, and they like reference the Beast of Bennington. Like there were stories that there was some kind of wild man that likely came a lot from Joe Citro, our friend. But one of the things that all these sightings had in common was that people just said it looked like a man in a gorilla suit. And it turns out that it was most likely this famous, I guess locally famous father-son practical joke team, because everyone knew that they owned a gorilla suit, which is a very sweet prank.
In New England, you have to make your own fun, You
do.
And sometimes it involves putting on a gorilla suit and scaring visiting writers.
It reminds me of the crop circles episode that we did when you told me about the two men that put on that elaborate prank for so many years together, just out of a sense of camaraderie. And this was a father-son type.
And you know why? Because it was fun.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's like, look, we're always telling men that they need to bond more. And then when they do by impersonating a monster, suddenly we don't want them to. I think probably we need to encourage more pranks as like a public service kind of a thing.
I agree.
Yeah.
More after this. And now back to the show. Now we can move from the monster problem, the monster theory, which of course we can imagine people applied to the disappearances, saying maybe this wild man, this Bennington beast, this Glastonbury monster, as he was also sometimes called, may have been the reason that these 5 people disappeared. Unlikely, but what's likely in what we're talking about. So UFOs, as we heard in some of the stuff Joseph Citro wrote, some of the articles that came out around this paranormal aspect of the story, this is the next thing that we're looking at as a possible explanation.
Oh boy.
So if you want to read this article from 1938 that comes out of the Bennington area, the mountains near Bennington.
I sure do. Okay. Eerie light on mountain explained. Mysterious night flashes in Peru and Stratton, now known to be signals of geodetic survey engineers. Well, they gave it all away in the headline.
They did.
For 2 weeks, mysterious lights have been seen atop the Green Mountains from the summit of Stratton north to Peru Peak. People living close under the mountains, as well as people living clear across the West River Valley, have reported sighting these eerie lights. All sorts of theories have been advanced to the effect that some prankster was having his fun, that a band of kidnappers was flashing signals, that the Green Mountains were honeycombed with foreign spies, or that the Long Trail Association was promoting some kind of torchlight procession. But now the guessing is all over. Information has been received that the lights were those used by engineers of the Geodetic Survey who are drawing up triangulation arches over this area. Their work is done at night with the aid of powerful lights in order to avoid heat waves and light refractions common in daytime.
It's me yawning.
See, I, as is so frequently the case, the real answer is the one that is so boring that no one thought to guess it.
Exactly. But whether the people that saw these lights ever read this debunking remains to be seen, of course. I couldn't find any articles of people talking about the lights, but...
Mysterious lights are a classic paranormal thing. Like, there's like the Marfa lights, and I feel like, I don't know, there's like random places that are meant to have lights. It's fun. It's a good paranormal thing to have. Yeah.
Yeah. I went to see the Marfa lights once, and I think I saw some lights.
Yeah, I think maybe you told me about it. Yeah, and also it's like, I don't know, most places can cough up a mysterious light now and then, I should think.
I think you're right. So let's look at this other one that I found from 1950. There were a lot of like Vermont UFO stories, but I tried to stick to the ones that were actually reasonably within the Bennington Triangle area, or else it kind of wouldn't make sense to talk about.
Because you're not a hack like Joe Citro.
Don't. Poor Joe. So this one's from 1950. So if we can remember, 1950 is kind of where a couple of the disappearances are happening, and where the first actual questioning of, is this a paranormal occurrence, are happening. So would you read this article again from 1950?
Yeah.
Right in the heart of this Bennington Triangle story.
Amazing headline. It says Bennington sees flying saucer too. The village of Bennington, Vermont, which was pelted Tuesday by hailstones with metal cores. What?
I've got a lot of questions about that.
It's giving Carrie. Just missed being sideswiped by a flying saucer the day before. Oh no. Mrs. Walfred H. Walquist of Morgan Heights, whose husband is the village's acting postmaster, told yesterday of hearing a loud explosion, looking up and discovering a round, flat object with flames shooting from both ends, flying through the air on Monday afternoon. She called the neighbors to come and see it, but before they could get outdoors, it had flown away, Mrs. Walquist said. Hailstones big enough to dent car tops and shatter windows bombarded the town Tuesday, and folks who melted some to see what made them dark in the center said they discovered what looked like metal pellets. Pseudoscientists theorized that slag from the stacks of a Troy coke plant was picked up by the storm clouds as they whipped by, carried to Bennington, and then dumped with hailstone coatings. Nobody has yet tried to connect the hardcore hailstones with the appearance of a flying saucer. Okay, this is great stuff.
Does feel like someone should try to connect those two.
Yeah.
It's pretty weird.
Wow. And do we know why those hailstones happened?
I didn't get into it too much, but that's a
Wow.
great question because it's really weird. And maybe we can have a metal core hailstone. If any of you out there know why hailstones get metal cores, sound off in the comments because it's really weird. So I included this obviously because it's part of the greater lore. It happened right in the time where these theories were developing as people were missing. And because I think it's really interesting that the first UFO sighting as we know them now, they used to be called like airships before we thought of them as like alien crafts as much as we do now. But that started in 1947, just 6 months after Paula Weldon disappeared. So Kenneth
really
Arnold
interesting.
sees the first UFO. He's the one who describes it as a saucer skipping across the water. That's how it moved. That gets misunderstood as it looking like a flying saucer. And then everything just pops off from there. But I think that it makes sense that we might kind of wrap these two things in together since they're happening so concurrently.
Yeah.
Pretty interesting.
Yeah, I guess the sense of like, you know, again, this being a point in time when, you know, we also are, the Roswell stories appear in what, like 1949. And so this idea of like, we know that the government is up to stuff that we're not hearing about. It's just the question of sort of how do you identify it that gets tricky.
Yes, absolutely. So the last thing I wanted to bring up isn't necessarily completely related, but some people have theories around these mysterious things that are also found out in the woods around Bennington and around the greater Vermont area that I just had to bring up because I think they're so cool. And I think you'll think that they're very cool too. So this is where things get a little Blair Witchian. Okay. So if we go back like to the colonial era or potentially before, we start to see these mysterious structures form out in the middle of the woods. To this day, nobody can say beyond a total shadow of a doubt who created them. But most people seem to believe that this was an indigenous creation or potentially a colonial creation. So hard to say, but I wanted you to describe what you see here. It's called a cairn. Have you ever heard of that? A cairn.
Yeah, I have.
I think it's a cairn. Could be a cairn.
That's how I say it. I don't know. I feel like
you say cairn?
I say cairn, but you know.
Cairn. I think it's cairn.
Yeah.
You know me in pronunciation.
I like how you pronounce stuff.
Sarah.
K Sarah. But yeah, we have like a nice pile of stones that are arranged almost in a way that kind of like a stone fence will look. With a nice layer of moss on top, and they look like they've been there for a while. And it's like a good sized, you know, a big heap of stones. I've encountered cairns as like really just a little pile of stones that are meant to sort of like mark where a trail is going, especially if they're sort of like, if it's branching off in different directions that someone is using them to mark or something. But yeah, I think of it as like evidence of human interaction with the landscape. That's often like reassuring to see if you're trying to figure out which way to go. Or if you're in the Blair Witch Project. Very scary.
It's very scary. So these were located, the ones I showed you are actually located on Glastonbury Mountain, just off where the long trail is, where Paula Weldon disappeared, right? So
yeah, they're big.
Obviously it's a stretch, but it is a strange area where there are these mysterious structures that, as you mentioned, were likely trail markers, grave markers, some kind of landmark marker. But they are creepy to see, and we'll put those up on our Instagram for you all to see as well.
Yeah. Can you tell me what you find creepy about them? Because I think I find it mostly reassuring to like know that I'm seeing where people have been.
I think, Sarah, that I was looking at these in the context of looking into disappearances in the mountains for like an entire 3 days in a row, and I found them and I was like, ooh, it's more of like, I'm like, ooh, what's this, you know? And I'm more interested in what we're talking about next than these. But I did want to share that they were considered like strange as far back as 1684 when John Pynchon wrote to John Winthrop Jr., famous Puritans. Would you like to give this a shot in your best Puritan?
Oh, I sure would. Okay. Sir, I hear a report of a stone wall and strong fort in it, made all of stone, which is newly discovered at or near Pequot. I should be glad to know the truth of it from yourself, here being many strange reports about it.
Yeah, so I was like,
that's my Jedediah Springfield voice.
Very good.
Yeah.
So, I don't know, just something I
like
found.
It.
So, also, I had to point these out because I did not know these existed. I'm sure that most of our Vermont listeners will know about these. And these aren't specifically found in the area I'm talking about, but they are found throughout Vermont. And they are these stone chambers that I am now irrevocably in love with and would like to marry. So take a look and describe what you see here.
Yeah, I love this. I mean, it kind of looks like a dugout. But made of stone and with vegetation growing on top of it. And I guess it looks like, I mean, I would guess that it would be used as like a storehouse or possibly a tomb. But it's really beautiful.
It's really cool.
And the roof is like kind of the shape of a bridge.
Yeah.
And also very mysterious. And there could be a witch in there or a little goblin.
It looks like there's a witch in there for sure. And there are more than 800 of these all over the Northeast.
Wow.
Which is like, had you ever heard of these? Is this something you knew about? I'm just so shocked I've never heard of this as, you know, because of who I am.
As well.
Yeah. Most scholars agree, although a lot of people will say that they're indigenous. But most scholars think that they were built by colonists as root cellars. So it's like not very exciting, right? It's like not.
Root cellars are very exciting. That's where all the roots are cellared.
Yeah. Other people have said they believe that they were built by European travelers that were here during the Bronze Age, which is just classic racism to say that there was like a secret race of white people that came here and did things before the indigenous people. We know that story, tale as old as time. And other people say that it was, what else but aliens. So that brings us back around.
Why would aliens be building root cellars around New England, of all things?
I don't know why.
Maybe we should go to their planet and build them some nice cellars and do them a favor.
Yeah, and really ingratiate ourselves to them.
Maybe this is what the movie Arrival was really about.
I bet they'd like wine.
Yeah.
I could see them liking wine.
Carrots. Yeah. It would be cool to one day share food with the aliens.
Is a root cellar for roots, or is it because it's underground?
Well, I think it's like where you put root vegetables.
See,
but now that you say that, maybe the derivation is from what you're saying.
I have no idea. I feel like you're the person that would know this better than me based on your
let's
reading
see what
of
old Merriam-Webster has
colonial.
to say.
Okay.
Okay.
Used to store vegetables, fruits, and nuts.
Okay. First known use, according to Merriam-Webster, in 1767. An underground storage area for vegetables, and especially those as carrots with enlarged roots. That's the kid's definition, actually.
Well, that's probably good for us.
But I felt perfectly well served by it. Yeah. A pit used for the storage, especially of root crops.
Okay.
But yeah, and I think carrots also, if you want to store carrots, I haven't tried this, but I want to, because first I have to grow a bunch of carrots, but you can like bury them in sand throughout the winter.
That does seem like something that you would do.
Aw, thanks.
Oh, it's a compliment.
I know.
So anyway, that is the Bennington Triangle story. I feel it lacks a lot of substance, but,
well,
you know, these are the pieces that I was able to cobble together to try to make sense of it. I think we owe much of this to Joe Citro outside of the disappearances. The disappearances were truly considered mysterious. They truly happened as I told them. But other than that, the rest of it is, you know, the stuff that forms around a mystery that can go in just a million different directions and can be really bolstered by the people who have whatever vested interest in making them bigger than they are. Not to say that I think Joe Citro did that for any nefarious reason. I think it's just those of us that love this kind of thing often end up perpetuating these stories in new and different ways.
Well, and legends kind of want to happen. And I think there's
definitely,
you know, all the question of how and how much we want to be remembered. But to me, there's something charming about the human need to try and find a story where there might not be one, and to bring meaning to disappearances where maybe it was just all random happenstance in each case. And that by trying to give a bigger meaning to these things that happen, we are trying to make some kind of an offering to the people that died, I think.
Yeah. And just to, I think that the idea that we can just get lost in the woods is something we really don't like.
No, we don't. And yet we do it all the time. Yeah.
It's the easiest way to disappear. It's like, it's not the same as disappearing in a city. There are, even when you die, it's like your body can easily be scattered to the wind, essentially. You know, it's not like, that's why people talk about all of these mysterious national park disappearances, which is definitely creepy and compelling. Like, I'm not saying I don't know enough about it to say there's nothing there. I have no idea, but it is like, it is easy to get lost in the woods. It's easy to get turned around. It's easy to die of exposure. And that's a really scary and upsetting fact to a group of people who consider themselves civilized to the point of conquering nature. But like, unfortunately, nature is ready to conquer us at any time and is probably at the end of the day going to be better at it than we are at conquering it.
Well, and also I would say like nature doesn't even need to conquer us because it never stopped being in charge. And it's just cute that we thought that we ever, you know, had made any headway there. Because like at our best, we can learn how to understand it and work with it. But we're never going to win. We're never going to beat science and entropy and sort of what is. Yeah. And also, I mean, I would really like to decompose in the forest. And so I feel like one day when I've lived a good life, you know, maybe I'll just be like, oh, just time to go for a little day hike. Just gonna go see the trail I love. Don't come with me. And that would be about as good a way out as I could think of, you know?
I'm right there with you. But I've also lately been thinking about, is it possible to get just my skeleton to survive so that it could be a decoration for one of my loved ones during Halloween?
That would be nice of you. Yeah, I don't think that you could trust the animals to leave your skeleton intact.
No,
but maybe if you had your body bolted down to a series of boulders or something like that.
Something
I don't know.
like that. Yeah, I don't know.
We'll workshop it. Yeah,
but really, not, you know, in all seriousness, I think that just being able to merge back with nature is the ultimate choice for me as well.
Yeah.
So I think as we go, maybe that will become more of a possibility in a legal way.
I would really like that. Yeah. I did see an ad for someplace in Washington that will like turn your body into potting mix.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
But that's a little specific for me. You know, I don't want to be like, well, Mom, these potatoes you grew just did not turn out the way I was expecting. So
sure. Yeah. But no, I know what you're talking about. And I think it is pretty much the ultimate beautiful thing you can choose for sure. So even though our people didn't choose it in this story.
No. Yeah. the more I look at this kind of thing, the more it seems like humans just wanting to not let go of other humans, even when they're not around anymore. And I like that we make these stories. And I like that that dad and his son had their fun with the gorilla costume, too.
You know, there are so many ways to live. And I think in this case that everyone involved in the story was not doing anything nefarious by propping up a legend here. I think the main villain of this story was the wild man of Bennington.
Yeah, I don't like him.
Fuck him. Yeah, we don't like him.
Fuck that wild man.
But otherwise... Yes, Sarah, thank you for going through this with me. Thank you for part one and
Chelsey.
For letting me talk about the secret history and learning with me about the story that inspired my favorite book, Miranda's favorite book, one of your favorite books, if not, I mean, I don't think it's your favorite book, but it's up there.
No, but like top 10. Yeah, I really love it. I don't think that there's like one wrongly placed word in the entire thing.
No,
you know?
It is a perfect book. Absolutely.
Yeah.
But yeah, this was just something I have wanted to do for a long time. So thanks again. And I guess maybe one day I'll see you in the Bennington Triangle. I think we got to go.
Yeah, we got to go. We got to find a cairn.
All right. See you there. This was American Hysteria. Make sure you listen to Sarah's show, You're Wrong About, wherever you get your podcasts. If you love American Hysteria and want to help make sure that we can continue making this show as an indie company in a pretty difficult time in the industry, you can go to patreon.com/American Hysteria or subscribe on Apple Plus. Not only will you get ad-free episodes, but you'll also get bonus content like Hysteria Home Companion, the other podcast that I make with our producer Miranda, where we tell you stories related to the topics that we cover or stories that we just know that you'll love. We have a huge back catalog of subscribers-only episodes, so if you sign up right now, you'll have so much extra content that you'll never have to have a single thought in your head ever again. That's patreon.com/American Hysteria or subscribe on Apple Plus. If you go to AmericanHysteria.com, you can leave us a message on the Urban Legends hotline about a tale that you remember from growing up or one you've heard recently, and we might do an entire investigation about it. And while you're at AmericanHysteria.com, you can pick up some of our merch. 100% of those profits go to the Samir Project, a Palestinian-led mutual aid group in Gaza. American Hysteria's producer and editor is Miranda Zickler. Our associate producer is Riley Swedelius Smith. This episode has additional editing by Kaylee Jasperson, and I'm your host, Chelsey Weber-Smith. Thanks, as always, for listening, and I hope you have a great week.